Episode 7 of The Promised Neverland is a lot of talking again, but honestly, I really like where things are going with this. Now, there's only a few major points of this episode that I want to talk about, but I think they're all very interesting. The episode as a whole is setting up a very decent conflict. I am actually really like where it's headed with this. I don't know if this is where the manga goes. I mean, I know that there's like cut content and some weird stuff that's happening, but as far as like Norman and his kind of divide from the other kids, I don't know whether this is exactly where the manga goes and they're just kind of skipping over stuff or whatever. But I do love the conflict that is like arising. It's not just humans versus demons, and that's kind of black and white. I like that, like, Emma is bringing to the table, well, there are children, there are elderly demons. I was going to call them people for a second. I like that there's, like, a bit more complexity to it than it is just, like, us versus them, and then they're the bad guys either way. And even within, like, the humans, it's, like, obviously there's, like, there's always going to be a certain amount of complexity to, like, well, some humans are not great either. But I do like that Norman is kind of riding that line of, like, well, he still cares about his family, but he's also doing some really messed up stuff. We see him after his talk with Emma and Ray, and like they've changed up this demon with a bunch of spikes in them, and I don't know if they're alive. There's a bunch of like vials and like shit, like just jars everywhere with like hands of demons and stuff. So it's like, I guess it ultimately is bringing up the question: do you become a monster in order to take the monsters down, or do you stay human? And I think that's where Emma's coming from. Now, last episode we ended it with them talking about the plan in general to generate the demons and kind of cut off their food supply and let them kind of like eat themselves. And then we end with Norman finding out that they know Mujika and Sonju. Now, the whole thing, it basically focuses on Mujika. She is apparently 700 years plus old, and has blood specifically that allows her and whoever she shares her blood with, or some kind of concoction using her blood with, then whoever she shares with can ultimately abstain from eating humans and eat whatever they need to just survive in general. Now, presumably, Norman found out about her and his whole thing with, like, I forget I'm so bad with names of things. The facility that him and his crew were at, I'm sure he found out about Mujika there. He has never met her, but he knows about her. Supposedly, she was supposed to die, when the, like, king and his, like, the king of the demons, I think, they basically ate and slaughtered all of her friends, and said, no, that's not gonna happen. And it opens up, it's just really, really interesting, because the demons are not exactly all on each other's sides, because obviously the king of the demons is doing some messed up stuff to kind of keep his own, he's doing messed up stuff to kind of keep his own in line by using the farms as, like, a means of production that, like, he controls. Meanwhile, you have the humans where it's like, well, the humans don't exactly, like, apparently Minerva is dead. I don't believe that for a second. But apparently Minerva's crew got killed by other humans, and there's a lot of muddy lines here, and I love it. Now, with all the tension going on with Ray and Emma and Norman and their conversation about killing the demons, annihilating them all, eventually it comes out Emma does not want to kill all the demons. She wants to find some kind of middle ground, some kind of alternate route that involves some kind of peace, just something. She wants to have her cake and eat it too, and I'm sure that she's gonna have a little bit of awakening that, like, she kind of can't necessarily, but at the same time she wants to go down a path and live her life in a way that she won't regret it. And she definitely will regret it if she goes with Norman's plan. So they kind of come to a compromise, which is not really, because Norman's going to totally double cross them, and he's already said he's going to, not to their faces. But they basically come with a plan where it's like, okay, Sonju and Mujika are an issue for Norman no matter what. Regardless of what he does, regarding the, like, serum or whatever that he has, that he's going to, like, basically poison a bunch of demons, they are going to be a problem no matter what, because they don't need to eat humans immediately anyways. So what can they do about this? Emma, she kind of throws caution to the wind here and says, listen, I'm friends with them. I will bring them back here to you if you do not kill all the demons. And she's kind of throwing them under the bus a little bit, but I'm sure that she's like thinking in her own head, like, well, I'm not going to let him kill my friends. But at the very least, this is her way to kind of like stop Norman and be like, yo, listen, let's just talk about this. And he agrees. And they actually have a good back and forth where it's like, she says, oh, if I'm back within 10 days, I'll, with Mujika and Sonju, you won't kill all the you won't kill all the demons. And he goes, no, that's not going to work. So 3 days. And she's like, okay, 5 days. And then they kind of agree on that. So that's going to be her quest. And they kind of, it's weird because it's like they've kind of implied that it's going to be her, Ray, Don, and Gilda that are going to go off and find Sonju and Mujika. But at the same time, all the kids are probably going to have to come because it's like, who's left to look after the younger kids? But while they're doing that, Norman's doing some really sketchy shit, and he's just like, I told them that I would wait, but just kidding. So Norman is definitely gonna be like kind of hated. Emma and Ray are gonna be so unbelievably angry with him. Even if he doesn't like do like anything crazy by the time they get back, he's still planning on killing all the demons. He's gonna do it regardless. He could wait those 5 days. They could come back with Sonju and Mujika. He still plans on killing the two of them. So that their blood, so that like at least Mujika's blood can like not be a factor anymore, and then he's gonna kill all the demons anyway. So they keep saying, oh, he hasn't changed. He's still kind of putting all the burden on himself. Blah 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 blah. But he's definitely changed. he's a little bit corrupted. His sense of justice, his sense of like what's right and wrong has been twisted, and it's not his fault. He was brought to a facility. Now, again, it's all kind of a really messed up situation. Brought to a facility, experimented on, something's wrong. Speaking of which, all of him and his people are like kind of physically messed up, like in a really bad way. They have seizures. There's a guy with a bag on his head. I don't know what his deal is, but he's got like a paper bag over his head, and he's got like swords or something coming out of his back. But they've all kind of got like some real issues with their heads, and Norman even coughs up blood at the end of the episode. So clearly they kind of have a timer going set for them. So I feel like I'm kind of rambling a little bit here. So let's wrap this all up in just a neat package. Ray and Emma and Norman have a little conversation about how they disagree with each other's ideologies entirely, and kind of have a little bit of a deal where Ray and Emma are going to go find Sonju and Mujika, and Norman will hold off on his plan for a little while. Norman and his crew have no intention of really holding off, or at the very least have no intention of changing their plan in general, and are kind of pulling some bullshit and potentially being super sadistic to demons in general, because it's you become them, not to be like quoting Batman in any way, but like I'm gonna quote Batman. You either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain, and Norman's definitely heading down that path where he's going to become some kind of villain here, even to humans. He's already pointed out that humans fight each other too, so it's like, ooh. So they've got that going on. Meanwhile, we get a brief flashback to when Norman was taken away from Gracefield, and I hesitate to say that this is like anything crazy mind-blowing, but he gets brought to the gate, and eventually he's led to a room, and we hear a man's voice saying, hey, it's good to see you, welcome, and him kind of having a shocked face. And I assume in the next episode we'll get like a full flashback to what happened, him getting transferred to the facility, him meeting all of his new friends, and whatever. Oh, speaking of Gracefield, speaking of the farms, so we learn a little bit about the escape plan to the human world. So that was another thing where it's like, even if they didn't kill all the demons, even if everybody like ran away to the human world, it's still really tricky, because a bunch of the access points are blocked off, and there's really not an easy way to go. But there is one gate left to the human world, and that is underneath the Gracefield. They all got away, but then they have to go back. They have to go back anyways to go get the kids that got left over by. Now listen, they have to go back anyways because they have to go get like Phil and the other younger kids. But this is like really like they were just there. They were just there, and now they have to return either way. Like if they had gotten everybody out, this would be a huge slap in the face because it's like they were right there. They could have gotten out. Now there are gatekeepers apparently, so I don't know what that means. Now, that brings up a whole other thing with me because Isabella apparently, now I think this is actually anime only and not in the manga, but Isabella's been tasked to track the kids, which I'm sure will come up at some point. So that makes me wonder who is at the farm, who is at Gracefield House looking after the kids. So even if they all get back, even if Emma and Ray and something happens and they get Norman back to like normal or whatever, and they all head back to the house, it's not like they're gonna run into Isabella and it's gonna be like, listen, by the way, we got to talk about the tunnel that's underneath the house. They're going to have to deal with a totally different adult, or maybe multiple adults, or maybe even demons. We don't know what it's like there now. Isabella was in a cell the last time we saw her, so it's hard to know for sure what's going on with that. Maybe Phil and everybody are like not in a good way, and it's like not the worst thing in the world, but like also not the best, much worse than it was before. I don't know. I'm just speculating now. I don't want to keep rambling. I didn't really come into this video with a plan. I just wanted to talk about the episode. I love where it's headed in some capacity, but there's a lot of loose ends to be tied up. So it's just one of those things where I gotta kind of like stay along for the ride, just see where go with the flow. So I'm really interested to see where things go. And that's really all I gotta say. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section, and leave a like if you enjoyed anything I had to say throughout my ramblings. I'm really excited to see where the conflict goes. It's way more complicated than it was in the first season. Even in the beginning of this season, it's way more complicated. So many different factions, so many different like twists on each faction, and what to expect and what not to expect. I'm very interested to see where this goes, and I'm wondering if they nail it in the end, regardless of whether it's specifically manga content or anime twisted whatever. We'll see. I will see you guys in another video. So long.